It is time for the Tin Can Radio Program. Well, whenever anyone's got something that sounds smart to say, go right on ahead, because I'm already recording, and it usually takes a while for me to say something like that.
I will say this, and when I was doing my my research, there's a big difference that I didn't even realize, that they don't even recognize the Trinity.
No, they don't.
I didn't realize that Christ to them is a Archangel Michael, or a creation of God. I'm like,
yep.
Didn't know. Now, I've had friends who are Jehovah Witnesses, and I've never even understood. I always just assumed they believe in the Trinity. They just do things a little differently. These, 144,000 are going to survive, and they're going to be the co-leaders in the church. And I was like, that's where you lost me.
If you've ever read the New World Translation, which is the Jehovah Witness Bible, they were very careful to remove every instance in the New Testament that referenced anything to do with Jesus as God. And anytime they did change it, it was a little g. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was a God, not the. Yeah. Okay. They made a fundamental error in their translation, though. So if you go to John's Gospel, remember that instance where Thomas had not been with the disciples when Jesus appeared to them. Mm-hmm. And Thomas was in that room, and they were telling Thomas we'd seen the Lord, and then Jesus appeared, and Thomas turned around, and Jesus said, touch my hands, touch my side. And in the New World Translation, they didn't correct it. Thomas said, my Lord and my God.
Yep. That is one of the instances where Christ receives worship and does not, and of course doesn't correct anybody for worshiping at all so far in the Bible. So,
no, and if you follow Jehovah Witness theology, the fact that he didn't correct Thomas was blasphemy. He took that praise as God and didn't correct him. So that. I mean, if you want to stick them in their Bible, take the New World Translation, have them look at that passage in John. I don't know if they've changed it, but the last time I looked at an NLT, New World NWT. I don't want to.
It's NWT,
not New Living Translations. No, I don't want to change. That's a good paraphrase. Anyway, they missed that. They missed that. Jesus accepted it, and if he accepted it, he is or he isn't. You just go back to what fundamentally he said in the New Testament was that he was God.
Right.
Yeah.
That's not the only spot that they forgot about on Christ receiving worship on there. Also, also in the John's vision over in Revelation, they got the angels and everyone worshiping Christ as well.
Worshiping, right?
Yes.
And they also believe in reincarnation, I guess, where the soul dies with the body. There is no hell.
Right.
That's right. You're waiting for Jehovah to, let me see if I remember the personality of the deceased and matches it with a new, freshly host. That's, to me, reincarnation.
Right. Well, basically what they do is they believe in annihilation. You die, that's it, you're gone.
You're gone.
And then God recreates you out of the memory he has for you. So technically, at least ontologically speaking, you're not even the same person that you were. I mean, it's a really weird belief. I mean, it's just.
Like I said, when I read through that, I was like, well, that's reincarnation. You wrote it down, reincarnation. To me, that's what it sounded like. But I guess what
they have two groups of saved. You have the very upper crust, which are 144,000, and I think the date they said that nobody is in that group because they mean 144,000 from Pentecost to now. So if you break that down into years, it's, I think it comes out to something like 7,000 people a year managed to be in that upper crust. And I think it was either 1932 or 35 that they said Jehovah is no longer calling anybody into that caste. So if you are a Jehovah's Witness today, no matter how good you are part of what they call the Great Cloud. In other words, you will be resurrected or remade for a paradise earth, an earthly existence.
Right.
While the 144,000 get a spiritual existence in heaven.
I know they said the last days began in 1799, and they predicted October 1914 was, I guess, World War I.
Yeah.
And that's when end of times, I guess, or that's when the beginning of the 144, or is it before that?
Well, it was the 144 started at Pentecost and continued all the way down to until they said that there's no more in that 144,000 category.
So how did it become one of the 144? I couldn't. You can't that.
That's just it. It's the way that they name them is you have to be called by the Watchtower organization and deemed as one of them. If you ever go to their public Easter ceremonies that they invite everybody to, it's sort of a remembrance of Jesus. And they make a big deal out of the fact that he didn't die on a cross. He died on what they call a torture stake.
Yeah.
They deny that he died on a cross. Even though every major historian on the planet will tell you that the trial, crucifixion, and burial of Jesus of Nazareth is the best attested fact we have in all of ancient literature and history.
Yeah, admitted by atheists and Orthodox Jews and other people that don't trust their faith in Jesus.
But they will all agree that, that he was crucified. And the Romans even have the crucifixion is a Roman word. It basically means out of the cross, the suffering of the cross. And the Romans thought it was such a dishonorable, gnarly type of way to die. Most of them wouldn't say it in polite society. They would say something like the extreme penalty or use some other euphemism to put in place of crucifixion because it was crude to them. Right? That was just the way their mindset was. But they go against that and they make a big deal that no, he died on a torture stake. So you go to this remembrance of his death and they pass the communion, but nobody in their church takes communion because if you take the communion, it signifies that you are one of the 144,000. So nobody in their church or whatever will take communion. They just pass till it gets through the whole church, and then
I did not know that.
Did not know that either. Yeah,
it's bizarre.
Didn't they also call the end more than once? Haven't they?
Many times.
Yeah.
Many times. Yeah.
The false prophet. Many times.
Yeah, I have a list here.
Like 6 or 7, I think, publicized, wasn't it?
Yeah.
1914, was it 1961?
It was 1916, 1918, 1914, 1925 they predicted, until they got to the year 1925. On January 1st, they kind of backpedaled a little bit.
Well, they've actually bought a piece of property with a house right now today. Yeah. For the 2 prophets on the wall. They own this. Moses and Elijah or whoever's coming back.
Where's the house?
They own it today.
What
1926, they completely backworded and said, some anticipated that the work would end in 1925, but the Lord didn't state so. The difficulty was the friends inflated their imagination beyond reasons. And so basically they were saying that they got it wrong.
Yeah.
By 1941, they said that it was effectively months before Armageddon would take place. 1968, because there was a big gap between the 40s and up till 1968, and whispers started again of 1975. And of course, 1975 came and went. And the reason that they keep doing this is that the Watchtower Jehovah's Witnesses would have, when they started predicting the end and prophesying the end, they get this huge bump in numbers, right? And people joining.
Nah.
Then, of course, the time would pass and they'd have a huge crash in the numbers, lose more than they gained. All right. So by 1975, that's it. They said we learned to quit fixing dates, but they already said that in 1925 too. They said we shouldn't fix dates anymore, but they went again ahead at least twice more and did. All right, so it'll be remaining to see now how long they can go before they start pedaling on their next Armageddon.
Well, they changed their tactics since COVID hit. Now it's by mail.
Mail?
Yeah, by mail. You'll get something in the mail from them. An invitation to call or an invitation to write for literature. That's what I've gotten.
Yep. And sometimes you'll see them, because we see them around here, sometimes in like strip malls and other shopping centers. They will have a stand out inside, in one of the places with a couple of Jehovah's Witnesses to explain to you if you come forward for some of their literature. They have, their Bibles, the Watchtower Society, tracts. And so they're still very active out in the communities, but they aren't walking the pavement like they used to.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because you go to Deuteronomy 18, and what does God says? He says, you miss one time, you mess up on prophecy just once, and the people are to ignore you.
Yeah.
And if you're inside Israel, you're supposed to be taken out of the gates and stoned to death by the village.
Yeah. I was about ready to say, it's a little bit more than just being ignored.
Yeah. Yeah.
Looked around and you've noticed that things are pretty unstable right now. It's hard to find abundance where we once knew it. If you think things might get worse before they get better, you'd be wise to visit preparewithmojo50.com. It's our trusted source for emergency food, survival tools, water and air filtration, and more. Top quality and money-saving discounts for you as a Mojo listener. Be prepared to protect and feed your family in the event of an emergency. Preparewithmojo50.com.
It's original. It's bold. It's patriotic. It's American. It's American pride.
It's American Pride Roasters coffee. Historically great coffee.
AmericanPrideRoasters.com.
I got my
Mojo 50.
I got my mojo working out.
Live free.
I got my mojo working. I got my mojo working out. But it just won't work on you. I got my mojo working. But I just don't know what to do, y'all.
One of the questions I got is, what's the best way with all of us talking to witness to them? Because I witness to them all the time. I do. Right. I actually was on a job one time at GE Mount Vernon, and I was teamed up with an electrician. This was back, this would have been the early 2001 to, I don't know when it was. But I had give him scripture on proving that Jesus was God. And we got laid off, and I got a letter in the mail from this guy. He sent me a letter in the mail. Still got it somewhere. I think it's in my wife's armoire. But he said he agreed that the Bible stated that Jesus Christ was God. No kidding, y'all. But he still didn't believe it. I'll never forget it. I'll never forget it. I mean, I gave him all the scripture to look up, and I don't know where the note's at. I still have it somewhere. I think it's in the armoire. I'd love to get it and reread it. But Jerry, that was long before I even knew you, brother.
Yeah.